Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast, where every week a few people, be they friends or be they enemies, come together sort of like a mutual, on armistice. Is that what it's called? Where enemies come together and they like celebrate Christmas?
Yeah.
Right. We come together like we're celebrating Christmas. Yesterday we were fighting each other. Today we celebrate. Tomorrow we will be at war again. And we write a story that they'll tell stories about later on. It'll be a story of a story, kind of storyception, if you will. I'm, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we are here to tell you a story. What did you guys have?
Villain.
Pantheon.
I had anti-hero. So I think Pantheon should start then, right?
I think so.
Okay, Seth, let's hear it.
All right, so I added in a little bit of different element as well, the magic system, because it sets up a little bit of how the Pantheon works.
That makes sense, I think.
And so what it is this world takes a semi-creation route. There would have been, if anyone's familiar with as I know we all are, and any of our listeners, if they're familiar with the creation idea where a single God created from nothing the matter and the being of this reality in this world.
Right.
So that's kind of what happened. Kind of follows along, kind of very similar to, I guess you could say the biblical creation idea. That not in any specifics, just the idea that one being kind of created what's here. Nothing is particularly important as far as the time. It wasn't like it was the 6 day period. It's just that one being created this reality, this world that is, taking place in. And much like our own, he created kind of the superior being for his world to mirror his image, his likeness. And so you have kind of the humanoid people of this world. And at the very beginning, he gave them, much like our own, gave them dominion over the world that he created, basically giving over part of his sovereignty to his creation over what he created and gave to them. And so kind of from the beginning, just about everybody could have, let's say, a controlling factor in kind of what was going on in nature. And so really everybody was kind of at the top tier. Each individual was kind of at the top tier of their own, not their own little world, but their own kingdom, I guess you could say, where if they wanted rain for their crops, they could command it to rain. And command it to stop, and command pestilence out of their crops, and or command pestilence into someone else's crops. There's in most things nothing they couldn't do in those kind of ideas. If you get like just kind of as far as the manipulation of nature and the world and the creation around them.
Cool.
And so inherently everyone in this world has that innate ability to do so. However, what happened eventually is, it's kind of like, it's like this weird idea too, where I had this thought. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm some kind of definitive, okay, sorry, my headphone battery was talking it. So when the Israelites possessed the land, and then there's the phrase where it says, and everybody did what was right in their own eyes, they had no king.
Yeah.
Like that just
end of the book of Joshua.
Yeah. And it's like all throughout the book of Judges too, where like a judge comes and like it settles everything out. And then it's like, and then he died and there was no king in Israel. So everyone did what was good in their own eyes. So it's like, it kind of gives me this idea that it was almost some kind of form of anarchy to where, and so that's kind of what was prevalent. Everyone could pretty much bring rain, stop rain. And so, but anyways, what ended up happening, of course, as people become more and more numerous, they start developing, hierarchy systems, or groups of people give up their authority over themselves to a greater, stronger, smarter people. And you get kings who then rule over different people. However, when they did this, they turned over their power to these kings.
That makes sense, yeah.
And
making the kings more powerful.
Ended up with was less and less people with with their natural dominion over their environment, because they were handing it over to different rulers. And so eventually what you have is, as these different kings started popping up, they started consolidating basically ultimate power. And so now you have a state where the people themselves have no power, and it's all kind of consolidated in the head king, and then slightly to his immediate family and kind of his genealogical line. And so all these different kings came to kind of be worshipped as, you know, little miniature gods. So then you have, you know, all the people that are under them have the different, kind of as you look back into kind of like the Greek mythology, and you have, you know, these pantheon of gods that one did this and one did that. You know, people would kind of give up. And at this point, they don't realize anymore that they could have had that themselves as well, but they've given it up and now basically worship these god kings, and like all the different people and branches of their family that can hold some of this power as well are now like the different priests and things of the different kind of
So that's the pantheon that we know, or that the people know about, right? Do they like hide the fact that they in fact got the power from a bigger creator?
I think that's at this point it's far enough along that most people don't realize that. I think
that's what I was thinking. That I like that a lot.
That what most people know is that whatever, and the name doesn't change. Whoever inherits the throne basically takes the role of that kind of pantheon god. So as far as what most
they've
people
even
know,
forgotten then.
Different kingdoms are innately ruled by one of these pantheon gods, which, you know, like changing countries is more of like changing basically which, you know, pantheon, you know, which member of the pantheon you kind of follow and worship. And then most of the...
I've just a question, like the... I'm sorry about my frog in the throat. I'm sorry. Okay, the question that I have is like these beings created in the image of God, and he bequeathed to them dominion, and they were exercising that, like you say, you know, husbandry of the land, stewardship of the land and the beasts and all that, and had power. Did they have what kind of lifespan are they having? And as they did that lifespan diminish along with their power as they turned it over, and did the gods' lifespans increase? Do you know what question I'm asking?
Okay, so in that, a slight idea I had in that was at first when they did this, let's see how it's, I would definitely say the regular people, as they diminished this power, their lifespan would have ceased. Although lifespan and everything before was, I would say, not like there was no regular lifespan. I don't know. It's a different idea I have in my head that, okay, maybe I'll just put that aside.
What is regular lifespan?
Like it wasn't like what we have now where it's like, okay, you live to, you know, that the average lifespan is 75 or 80 or... Like I said, I'll go ahead and put that idea aside because it's a little bit confusing. But let's just say, in average, the people that kind of subjugated themselves, you know, underneath of like this, their lifespan started to decrease, and basically the royalty enjoyed a longer lifespan. You know, so it's like
however much authority you had, your life would increase. So people still have some authority over their lives, so therefore they have some lifespan.
Yeah.
Right. But they've given over most of it, so it's sort of a pretty normal or average lifespan for the normal person. But these pantheonic pretender gods, they hold a lot more of this power, and so therefore they
instead of living, you know, anywhere between 60 to 100 years, then, you know, they'll live maybe like 200 to 250. So it's not like an extreme amount, but at least 1.5 to double what normal people have.
Yeah.
But again, like the top tier structure of this is, so if like, let's say, you know, your dad was the head of that regional pantheon or that regional kingdom, and he died, and then Levi was, you know, the son inheritor, he would basically step into the role, and he'd no longer be Levi, he'd be
Zeus.
You know, Zeus.
Everyone is Zeus once they take the role.
Once they take that role, they always hold the role of Zeus. They are that pantheon. So it's kind of like an heir system where it's like they are their own person, but they become the role, they take on the role of that.
I am Spartacus.
No, I'm Spartacus.
Yeah, no, I got you.
I'm Spartacus.
That's cool.
And my wife is
I like
Spartacus
that.
too.
That gives a lot of options for a lot of crazy things to happen.
Yeah.
You know, because I've always hated the idea that like the same God that people are trying to kill in stories is the same God that like created the universe. It's like this makes it so that they're just guys, you know, and if you can gather enough support and gather enough power, you could topple them, which is exactly what the anti-hero is trying to do. He is a scientist. He doesn't believe in the power of the Pantheon. He surmises that they are exactly what they are, although in his estimation, they are aliens, right? That's how they have so much power. He doesn't believe in gods or anything like that. And what he is doing, he has found an ultra dense material, refined. When refined and then flattened, it has been proven to him on a couple of occasions that he can hide things from these beings. So he has enough right now. He has a shoulder piece, he has an arm guard, and he has a gauntlet, and he has a dagger, and he has 3 crossbow bolts, like tips, and he has a box made out of this material. And it has been proven to him because he's kind of an affluent, noble kind of a courter. He kind of courts the edges of the families and stuff. You know, he doesn't partake in any of the religious ceremonies, but he's kind of always there. And he's creating this. His name is Thomas, and he's creating this suit, and his plan is, and his estimation, because he's a scientist, is that he's going to make this suit and then he's going to kill God. God's going to kill them. That sounds like a villain though, right? But he's the hero because in the process of making this material, he has, through alchemical means, created gold. So he can create gold out of nearly any material because what he does is through the refinement process to get his incredibly dense specific element, it also performs some weird neutrino evolution, you know, shifting properties and creates gold.
Cool.
Which he basically, in order to further his position, has started like hospitals and charities, and he doesn't really know what to do because he needs a lot of this stuff, and it's like for every ounce of this super dense metal that he creates like 25 pounds of gold.
What was the stuff the Mandalorian suit was made out of? Beskar. I'm thinking of like a Beskar, only that has the ability to bend light, so you can't literally becomes invisible.
Right. I kind of viewed it as once it is turned into a metal, it kind of oxidizes. You know, once it's been refined into like just the metal, it kind of oxidizes, and it has to be alloyed with something in order to, because it's really brittle. But once it's mixed with something where it's the predominant element, it oxidizes and then turns kind of like a deep maroon.
Ooh, cool.
And so in this story, he is the hero. He's viewed as like this heroic person, right? Because he is charismatic and he's doing the right thing, right? He somehow has all this gold and is just, giving people jobs, lifting people out of poverty. You know, he's like a really philanthropic person because he needs to like basically lift up society in order to create the means of production in order to increase the production of this refining process.
Cool.
Because, you know, it takes a lot to just get a little, like this arm, you know, shoulder piece, arm piece, and gauntlet and knife, crossbow bolts, and box is like 20 years of work.
Wow.
You know, and so that's how he kind of finds himself doing the right thing, is not because he feels like he wants to help people, but more so based out of kind of an attempt to move civilization far enough and society enough along so that when he proposes making a huge smeltery in the town, there's a lot of people who want to work there. You know, it's like if they want to work there, you know, I gotta get chemists. So that means I have to start a school. In order to start a school, I have to make sure people are educated. In order for people to be educated, I have to give them jobs, and I can't just give them it all for free because then people won't feel fulfilled. So I have to like give them jobs and like create a functioning society so that he can make this armor so that he can kill God. That's the anti-hero.
Cool. Okay. The villain, it's interesting to me how exactly my villain fit into this pantheon, because Artemis is ancient. He's been around. To look at him, he looks like healthy male in his prime, fit, but you don't look at him and say, oh, he's buff, or you don't look at him and say, oh, he's tall, or you don't look at him, oh, he's kind of short.
Right.
You don't look at him, oh, he is, you know.
Like I look when you look at me.
Exactly. Yeah, but he, you know, he's handsome, but not the kind of like
not a second look handsome.
He doesn't command a room by the power of his presence. He's really comfortable to be around. He's not the kind of a guy that gives people the feeling like guys that, that are they don't feel like they have to be on their guard around him. They're not afraid that he's going to be trying to take them down a peg or two. He's not one of these guys that's constantly jockeying for position.
Right.
He's refined and cultured, but I'd say smooth. This guy is smooth. He has an amazing empathic ability, amazing ability with both men and women to just see where their insecurities are and know exactly how to mollify and make them feel, at ease and good about themselves. And people love being around him. The problem with Artemis is that he's entirely malevolent. This guy, he really began the process of coming alongside people and helping them with their struggles and helping them to become better at, calling down the rain, for example, of how to better connect their innate creative abilities with the elements, the elemental properties of the universe around them, but little by little, as he would kind of in the guise of helping them, little by little, he was siphoning off their power.
Right.
And his whole thing was he developed this, he created happy, secure vassals. And those vassals felt like they were completely, this is, why wouldn't I, And Artemis often deflected the focus away from him by setting up some of the petty tyrants that are, as kind of like their little gods and their little kingdoms. Unbeknownst to them, however, they were beholden to and dependent on Artemis for this one-way flow of ever-increasing power.
Right.
And he just kept working this system in a means for the purpose of just relentless pursuit of power and control. But it was the kind, he was so smooth and he was so slick. This guy, I would call him slippery, but there would be nothing creepy about him. He seemed to just be as straightforward as the day is long, and yet he was the weaving the webs and pulling the strings, so to speak.
I like it. So that at a moment's notice, he could, if he needed to, just completely destroy someone.
Right. Yeah, he'd just set up one of these little petty kings and then just, hey, the note's due, so to speak, in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
And just leave the guy as empty as, as his character deserves.
Right.
And with Artemis, but he's been carefully setting this up in such a way not to draw attention to himself.
Yeah.
Just, working his web,
So a little bit of a clarification on the magic system, a little bit of this, because I think it'd help explain how he can give certain people the power, but then still keep it beholden to himself. So kind of the way that it works is to use it now, because it's all been consolidated kind of to but individual groups is, so let's say one of the priests or sons or the people that are going to use this are going to go and they're going to bring rain. And so then they have to command the rain to come, but through their connection to that head god, that head, not the creator one, but the one of the pantheon that they're underneath of. Mm-hmm. And so some people, like if they're in the direct genealogical line of this group, they can have a little bit, but what happens is, I think this would work better, is that it is all consolidated in the one person. And then much like, let's say in a royal family, like let's say in a slightly fantastical thing, it's like, oh, you have the power of the magic, and so go to the sage and he will teach you, the ways, and you'll start out with small spells and then you'll, learn a few more things.
Right.
And
so then it's kind of a controlled teaching, but really what it is, it's a controlled giving. And so it's a controlled thing where then they're giving you by teaching you how to do this spell or this thing to bring rain and this to, move aside, the earth to make a wall of dirt to stop, whatever it is. It's basically, that's not so much teaching you how to use something, but just giving you the ability through, that line. And so to use it, you have to, like, the incantation is to tie it back to, I am, Seth, the son of Zeus, who, through his power, I command that the rain, come and get 3 inches of rain in this geographic area. And via the line, that's
sort of this. What I can kind of see with this is that Thomas, the anti-hero, he has fell victim to, what's the villain's name?
Artemis.
Artemis, right? Thomas used to have power, but it's been manipulated away from him. But he doesn't, I'd say at like the beginning, he doesn't really recognize that it was Artemis that did it. And so I have the kind of idea that that at first Thomas is like Artemis's like secondhand man, you know, and then something happens where Thomas kind of realizes what has happened. And first Artemis is kind of like leading him on and like using him and like treating him a certain way and, you know, trying to turn him into a weapon, you know, teaching him how to refine this material. And, you know, maybe that's how he finds out that it blocks the vision because, you know, Artemis tells, you know, reveals it to him or whatever. And Artemis is trying to turn Thomas into something that he can then, when the time is right, you know, send after one of these things once he's kind of completed the suit and, you know, been sort of all brought up to speed and firmly under his thumb. And the whole time, Artemis is sort of carrot in front of the horsing Thomas, saying like, we're going to get your stuff back. We're going to get you back to where you were, to where you used to be, and trust me, rely on me, depend on me. And Thomas is constantly giving over his authority over to Artemis, right? Like constantly, and never sort of taking it himself. What do you guys think about that?
Well, so Thomas is giving over his authority to Artemis?
Yeah. And Artemis is trying to sort of turn Thomas into a weapon that can be used at some point against sort of the higher ups.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what you have going on is, like I've said, there's like a lot of people can have this that are in, so Thomas would be of, let's say, you know, good, you know, royal stock in this case, maybe depending how close or distant he is. So there's people that have, you know, some amounts of this, you know, power, and some people might just have power to do healing, and some people might just have power to do as it's kind of filtered down, or what's kind of been given to them, or what's been, you know, prevalently available or enabled for them to do. And so I think Thomas is one of these people, and then you have Artemis, who's kind of more one of the more powerful or higher echelon other Pantheon figures that is, you know, basically, you know, he's got it out to have, you know, everyone else that's got power eliminated and dependent on him. And so he's tricking Thomas in a way into relinquishing any power that he still possesses to him, under the thought or understanding that they're going to get it back for him by killing one of the gods or exacting some kind of revenge.
Well, but I'm seeing that that's not working, since Thomas has sort of decided to work in the more concrete material realm,
right?
And is fashioning a means by which he can recommand control over his own destiny, so to speak.
Right. Okay.
So I think maybe that's where Thomas is, where he's at now. That's where he was before. He was Artemis's right-hand guy. Through some of it, he's kind of come to the conclusion that these are basically just selfish men or women vying for more and greater power. So it's like he comes to the thing that he realizes that Artemis is basically just swindling him, leaves, and then now is continuing his work, and has for, you know, a good amount of time to be able to establish what he has. And so it's kind of, you know, now he's where he's at, and he's built hospitals, and he's, you know, developing this stuff, and that's kind of what's fueled him to have this kind of burning righteous anger to kill the gods, is because...
And then because of his process, he's enormously wealthy, and he's able to provide meaningful, fulfilling work, vocation for people that essentially relieve them of having to depend on the more elemental side of creation in order to, you know, nursing productivity out of the land. There's like a new class of people that are being raised up just by being employed by Thomas's fabulous wealth.
Right. Okay, guys, we are like 40 minutes in. Do we want to start it? Do we want to keep this one going for next week?
Yeah.
I kind of like it. We got a good starting position here.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this first installment of, I'm trying to think of the name of the episode. I can't think of it. I'll think of it later. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Wait, It Gets Better. If you would like to listen to more episodes, we have some one-offs, and then we're doing kind of an episodic thing now. You can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Anchor, Podlink, anywhere you want. Anywhere that they have podcasts, I'm sure we exist. If you want to let us know what you think about this episode or past episodes, please email us at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com or add us on Twitter at @getsbettercast. Thank you so much, guys. We will see you next week.